So this says Rachel Stender. I'm not Rachel Stender, but she is here with a baby in her lap, and so asked me to do this because sometimes they just start crying. I got 3 of them. I know how that works. But ANCA is growing the new economy across the North Country and New York State. We serve lots of different people in lots of different regions to do great work to ensure that the money and wealth that is being created by our small businesses in our communities is to stay in our communities versus being extractive and moving outside of our region. Rob, can you jump to the next slide, please?
Yep, it's not doing it.
No.
Okay, let's just try it once more. Can you see the slides now?
Yep, I can see the next one. We have a vision of a new economy that works for all. Our mission is to build prosperity across Northern New York. And we're really looking to sort of, like I said, sustain wealth and vitality in our communities. We do this through a number of different program areas, including food systems, clean energy, small businesses, like the program that we have here today, and also through welcoming and belonging, or ADI, which is housed at ANCA, the Adirondack Diversity Initiative. So those are some of the things that we do. And through ANCA's Small Business Services Program, Rob, I'm still on the first slide. Can you move down to the third one?
Yeah, there's an issue with the way it's working. It won't advance.
Oh, weird.
Let me stop
here we
sharing.
go.
Let me stop sharing and try it again.
And I'll just say, while you're doing that, through the ANCA CPR program, we have a bunch of different services that you might want to utilize as a small business owner. So free or low cost, if you need help with a strategic plan, if you need help with digital marketing, if you need help with an energy audit to reduce your winter cost of being able to heat your building. All of those things are things that we can help you achieve with free and low cost services. We will be reaching out to you if you haven't accessed some of the other services in the CPR program. And if you have questions about any of those things, please do let us know. So that's the quick introduction to ANCA. If you have any questions about that, please reach out to any of us. We're so excited to talk more about our work. We have been working with the Cooperative Development Institute for over 4 years now. They've been trusted partners in looking at business transitions to worker ownership with us. And we're also now working on a cooperative housing project with them. Rob Brown has been just a wonderful leader in our communities. They serve, he'll tell you more about where they all serve, but they do serve our region and serve our region well, and have been expanding to be able to provide more capacity here. So if folks are thinking about starting up a cooperative, transitioning to a cooperative, understanding what cooperative models might look like, we're just so lucky to have them doing this important work in our region. And so I'm so excited to introduce Rob Brown. Ryan might want to introduce himself as well as the new person in our region working on this work with us. And just thank you so much, y'all. And if you want, I can try to do the slides if that would be easier, but I'll hand over the mic to you, Rob.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if this works better if we use Google Slides, because something's not working right. So let me just set it up. Ryan, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to start? Being from the region?
Certainly, yeah. So hi everyone. I'm Ryan Demers. I'm newer. I'm new with CDI, working with Rob and the Business Ownership Solutions program. And I live in Plattsburgh, so it's hopefully going to be a great thing for ANCA and CDI to continue to work together. And yeah, hello, nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. So I just want to get the awkward tech stuff out of the way here. Are people seeing the slides now and they're advancing and is
perfect?
Okay, great. Yeah, not sure what was going on there. But thank you for coming. This is a small group. Even if everybody showed up, it was still going to be a small group, and this is even smaller. So my hope is that this is very collaborative, very conversational, and that that you stop me anytime. I can be flexible and adaptable to go in whatever direction you'd like, and just to kind of brainstorm questions as they come up or ideas. I think that you all showed up because you thought you had something to learn from me. I think you all have as much to learn from each other as managers or owners of small businesses or trying to grow businesses, and the challenges, oftentimes the human resource challenges that come along with that, managing staff. So that is, just to tee that up, this is a 3-part series on what we call participatory management. Today, obviously, is January 31st. Next Tuesday and the following Tuesday, same time. So we kind of broke this some material down into 3 parts to cover. And just to introduce, Brian introduced himself. I'll just introduce CDI for a second. We are a nonprofit group. We work, unlike ANCA, that's really focused on sort of your region, the North Country exclusively. We're working all over the Northeast. I actually live halfway up the coast of Maine. We have staff. We have about 30 staff all over the Northeast. Ryan's in Plattsburgh, but we work with businesses all over the Northeast. We are the U.S. Department of Agriculture designated Northeast Center for Cooperative Business Development. So we're kind of like a small business development center for co-ops. And we actually work very closely with small business development centers in that work. We work collaboratively with them. We work across a bunch of different sectors. We do work in housing, a lot of work in agriculture and business startups, consulting with existing cooperatives. And it's all very typical SBDC style, technical assistance, business planning, feasibility studies, a lot of training and education, such as we're doing here. We do some policy work as well in various states and some at the federal level. So that's just a little bit about CDI. As I said, my name is Rob Brown. And my role here at CDI is I'm the Director of Business Ownership Solutions, which is a program that just works with, not just, but exclusively, we work with existing businesses on transitions to employee ownership, to worker cooperatives. More often than not, that is part of an exit plan. They're business owners who spent a lot of time building a business, but they have no real clue as to how to get out of it when the time comes. So more often than not, it's part of an exit planning process, but that is what we do with the BOSS program. In service to that program mission of preserving businesses, preserving jobs through transitioning businesses to employee ownership, we do a lot of different services. And today you're seeing, in the next 2 weeks, you're going to see and be able to discuss with us a chunk of work that we do. We do a lot of work around exit planning seminars, kind of introductory process options and so forth, through chambers of commerce and trade associations and economic development groups. But another part of what we do in service to that program mission is a lot of training around management. We do board training. We do some workforce training. We do a lot of work around management training because if we're going to transition businesses to worker cooperatives, there's oftentimes some additional skill sets needed. And it's not that those skill sets, I want to be clear, it's not that those skill sets are unique to worker cooperatives, but they are unique to high functioning businesses, whether they are cooperatively owned, conventionally owned, family owned, partner owned, right? So there are good management practices, good management skill sets and processes and tools that we can work with you to develop in a way that makes sense for your business, more or less. And that's just our belief that it's, there's nothing particularly special about worker cooperatives in terms of management. They're still a business, and any business can learn a lot in terms of some management skills that are more focused on the coaching and participation and engagement of the workforce. So that's a bit about CDI and the program that Ryan and I work with. So to start with, I just alluded to it a little bit, but just to understand a basic definition around participatory management, it's really a management style, a set of management skills that is very focused on engagement, training, engagement, and coaching with your workers, and that touches so many different areas. It's really focused on team building, like that's your goal. And we know that running a business, managing a business is incredibly difficult. You feel like everything is just on you. The buck stops here, and it's all on you. And oftentimes that is the case. We'd like to help you think about how to think about your role in your business a little bit differently, so that it doesn't feel quite so much like that, and to give you some skills and processes and tools that you can implement, that will engage people who work with and for you, in ways that take a little bit of the load off, more or less, right? It's all relative. Some have more capacity than others, but so that's a bit of the what. How can this help your business? We believe that by encouraging employee participation in decision making, teaching employees how the business makes money, engaging them in finding new efficiencies or new business ideas, reducing waste, and by creating great teams in the workplace, this will help you grow your business more sustainably and more profitably over time. It can improve hiring and retention. Nothing attracts new happy employees as much as your existing happy employees. They can also be your best recruiters. And so it's all about that. We can make the business better. We can make it more sustainable. We can make it more profitable through engagement, coaching, training with workers. So that's a bit of the what and the why and the how. Over the next 3 weeks, we want to help you develop a couple of skills. Think about some frameworks, develop some skills around communication and feedback. And when I say communication, there's just certainly communication skills, interpersonal, like how well do you communicate with other people? Perhaps you as a business owner or manager, how well do you communicate with staff? And there's also systemic communication, as in the communication channels, the way information flows through an organization. So when we say communication, we're talking about both interpersonal communication and then systemic communication within the organization. And as part of communication, getting good at feedback, giving, hearing. So next week, we're gonna spend a bunch of time on communication and feedback in the workplace, and how to use it to develop better relationships with your employees and better teams. We're also going to focus on some personnel systems, some aspects of personnel systems, both in terms of evaluation. Feedback gets into this, right? But definitely focusing on evaluation systems, performance evaluation systems, and that coaching aspect that I keep referring to. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about delegation and decision-making, and we're going to talk about open book management. So we're starting today with what I think is just a fundamental thing about management, and how you even view your role. And the first step to being a better manager is learning how to delegate and provide the people you're delegating to the training or the information and the training that they need to actually do what you're asking them to do. So that's a two-way street there, right? And then I'm going to introduce you to the concept of open book management. And we'll get into it later, but open book management is really just a philosophy and a culture of financial education and engagement, not trying to hide the books or hide how you're doing or how well or sometimes how not well you're doing as a company, because that can engage people because they feel trusted, they feel engaged, and they feel like partners in making the business successful. And there are some good tools around doing that. So I'm going to introduce you to the concept of open book management and a few tools around that. And then we're going to, at a later workshop, I'm going to take you further down that path. So that's what we're going to go over. Introduction to participatory management, building relationships with each other so that we can lay a foundation for the rest of the series. So I'm going to stop this share and I would love to have you all talk for a minute about your businesses. I want to hear, what attracted you to this? What do you think? What problem do you think I can solve for you, or we can solve for you? What's motivating you, and what benefits might you see for your business? Tell me a bit about your business. Tell me why you're here, so that I can try to be responsive to all that. So I'm going to go off screen share and invite you all to jump in. So we have, oh, and there's anything in the chat that I should be aware of? No. Okay. So yeah, we can go around. Who'd like to start? We have Bob Stivers, Darrell's Mountain, Casey Fick, and someone is on the phone. So who'd like to begin and talk a bit about your business? What do you do? Where are you at? How many employees do you have? Why are you here? What do you hope to take away?
Hey, this is Bob Stivers and Casey Fick. We're actually working out of the same company. So we just hopped on one call. We are a company of actually 14 different companies, everything from on the water activity to vacation rentals to other rental companies, bars, restaurants. So we have quite a few businesses, but we're still small. We have an operation of about 15 employees, and we're just always looking for ways to improve how we communicate with each other, how we streamline all of our businesses to be most effective. So we're really just trying to learn best business practices for us. We got a lot going on, so any insight, we're always looking to learn more.
Realize I put myself on mute. So you're with so Casey and Bob, you're with the same company, and there's like 14 different enterprises. But so do you manage them all individually, separately, or is it? Can you talk a little bit more about that? That's interesting.
Yeah, we kind of commingle all of our businesses. Everything kind of helps each other. So our main business, I would say, is our marina. We have a big marina here on the north end of Seneca Lake. We also operate boat tours, boat rentals. We have a little bar and grill out of that marina. So these are all different entities. Then we've got a couple other bars and grills. We own rental properties in the area. So everything kind of works together, but is separate entities.
Yeah. And I'm guessing there's a lot of seasonality to your employment.
There is, yeah. A good chunk of our business is May through November. But we have stuff that keeps us busy all winter long too. We do snow plowing, and our rental business is obviously year round. So
we do have a construction division that we try to keep the guys from the marina busy all year round. So we do try to keep them busy, but it's our summer hires that are let go for they'll go back to school.
Okay. So how many core year-round employees do you have, like full-time or part-time? But what's your core crew?
About 15.
15. And then how many more do you have in the summer?
Another half a dozen or so.
Okay. Great. Anything else you want to say about your business, or why you're here? What's your starting perception of how this might be beneficial to you? What you're hoping to get out of it?
We're looking for insight how to deal with today's employees. It's just tough. They don't have the work ethic that's been in the past. Trying to keep people on track. Communication is really important. Sometimes I struggle with that. That's why I have Casey started off with you, and then I follow up. It's just tough right out here now. It's not like it used to be where people would come to work, you give them their direction for the week, and they would go do it. Now it's constant communication, and it's got to be positive reinforcement, or they walk away.
Okay. Great. So just skills to develop better relationships and engagement with the people who work for you. Sounds good. Casey, anything you want to add to that? To Bob's comments?
No, I think that sums it up. Communication's definitely what we're working on over here. Kind of learning how to be better managers and bosses is always the goal.
Okay. Great. Let's see. Daryl's Mountain. I'm not Diner. Daryl's Mountain Diner. Is it? Do I have that right? Do you want to speak a bit to your business? How many employees? Little profile. Why are you here? Maybe you stepped away for a minute. Who do we have on the phone? 518-683-0507. Who's on the phone? Do you want to speak up about your business for a minute?
Hi, I was. Can you hear me? This is Jen
Yes.
Kaminsky.
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Yes.
I think I was muted, and I just.
Yeah.
It's always a process of learning. My name is Jen Kaminsky, and I work for Revolution Rail Company. We are based in North Creek, and we started in 2017. And we built these really cool bikes that ride on the railroad tracks. I joined the company in 2018. And when I started, there were 7 of us that worked there. And in 2020, we had 3 different locations going. And the owners offered me the position of taking on some management role, which was just new to me at the time. I'd had experience with smaller operations, mostly at the racetrack and agricultural, but this is the first time that I've really taken on a lot of more corporate feeling thing. It's a small business, but we're really starting to kind of get towards that vibe, if that makes any sense. And when I started managing, I had 15 employees, and at the beginning of last summer, I had 75. So I'm looking to catch up and learn as much as I can. We have everything from students to retirees on our staff. So it's pretty neat. You get to put on a chameleon suit and just figure out who you're talking to all the time, which I'm really enjoying that. But I do want to get better. And the company does too, because, this year was the first year that I ever had an evaluation, and I've been with them for 6 years. So we're kind of learning as we go. And I thought this would be a helpful tool.
Yeah. So you said you have 75 employees, and this is kind of like manufacturing, it sounds like.
No, it's like an excursion. So it's a trip. They're bikes that go on the railroad tracks, and it's a tourist activity in North Creek and Hadley and Warrensburg. And then we're going into other states too. So it's getting big.
Okay. I see. I thought you were saying you manufactured these bikes, but.
Well, we do.
You
we do that
you do both.
too.
Okay. So you got a bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, fundamentally, at the end of the day, like most of my day consists of wrangling cats that are my wonderful staff. And then we have, depending on which location it is, between 200 and 300 people, guests coming through the day. So it's a lot. It's a lot of talking.
Yeah. I'm curious. So you're doing the manufacturing stuff of the bikes, and then you've got the excursion outdoor experience part of the business. How does that break down, like percentage wise, employee wise?
I think the manufacturing, I mean, yes, manufacturing, we recreate them, we build them, all that, but that's I would say that's maybe 25% of it, because we're not building them for sale, we're building them for our own use.
Right.
And similar to Bob and Casey, our season is generally like May to November. And there are I think there's 7 of us that are full-time now. And so we work on building the bikes, putting them together over the winter. So it's really, it's a smaller percentage. It's mostly about the trip.
Okay. Great. Well, that 2 very interesting, but kind of interrelated business. I'm curious, do you all know each other? Do you know each other's business?
Well, we did. I mean, in the beginning, because it was such a small curve. And I've yet to meet a lot of these people in the flesh. We'll have like upper management calls. So I kind of know them that way. And I see their their documents and whatnot. But as far as sitting down, having a beer and knowing that their favorite color is purple, I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
It's been interesting to kind of learn somebody professionally without having that in-person experience, water cooler, whatever, like even pandemic aside, because we're so far apart from each other. The guy that runs Cape May is 7 hours away. You know, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Colorado as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're spread out. Well, great. So this is interesting. Like we have, well, let me ask, is Daryl's Mountain Diner, or are you present and able to talk a bit about your business? Maybe they're just listening in. Well, for both of your businesses that we're talking with today, so this is, we're doing this for two different businesses. They're decent size and have a lot of moving parts, both of them. But you're both in this sort of seasonal, tourist-driven outdoor experience economy. So there's certainly some similarities there between your two businesses, and there's going to be similarities between your workforces too, I think, probably. I would guess. So let's focus. Daryl's Mountain Diner is having audio problems. Okay. Yeah, let us know if there's, we're recording, so maybe you can watch it later and we can help you with your audio outside of this if you don't get it fixed in the interim. But so I do think some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about can be particularly helpful, some more than others. So this is good to know. I think some of what we have to offer can be highly applicable and highly useful to the workforces you have and what you're trying to do and the businesses that you're running. And some of it may feel a little less. So, we can, let's pivot and let's be adaptable to make sure we're addressing your needs and talking about what you'd like to hear most about. So with that, I want to jump back into, I'm going to screen share again for a minute. Are folks seeing, can folks see the screen share, the slides that I'm showing? Bob, Casey, Jen?
Hi. I can't, but I'm
Is
pretty
you on the
okay. I'm fine without them. We'll figure it out for next week. I think I'm just having
Okay.
some technology.
Yeah, but Bob and Casey, because I can just, if you're not seeing the slides, then I can just not use them and we can just talk. But if you are seeing them and it's helpful to have the bullet points up as we go, I can do that.
When you had them up earlier, we could see them. So
Okay. Oh, and Daryl's Mountain Diner is also saying that, so they've got the video, they just don't have the other. Okay. Then I'm going to go back to that for a minute. And where were we? Here we go. So this is where we left off. So yeah, so let's talk a bit more about, let's start in on this. So this is just a starting place, a way of thinking about your role as managing other people. And I present this idea as a bit of a framework to help you kind of right size what your expectations of yourself may be. And foundationally, good management is about delegation, right? Like you are accountable for many things, maybe everything, right? Maybe just everything falls on you, but you can't possibly be responsible for everything. And so what am I talking about, right? Like, what is this distinction that I'm making between accountability and responsibility? Well, the accountability, that's what we're going to get about, is this idea as management as a series of functions. So often managers who are doing really hard jobs that just like feel like they're just on fire from everything, right? And it just can feel overwhelming, and it's just an overfilling plate. But that comes from thinking about management as a person or a title. I mean, and that person or that title might be you. And what I would like to encourage you to think about And it's going to look different in every business, obviously. But what I'd like you to think about is how to think about management generally, and particularly management in your business and your role, as a series of functions. What are all the functions that need to be performed day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, to make this place run the way it's supposed to run? And so that gets to the idea of like, I mean, how many of you actually have your own job description, right? I bet not one of you do. So it just gets, I mean, we expect this of our employees, right? That they have a job description that they're hired for, and they have, you know, a set of functions that they're supposed to perform. But as managers, often don't do that ourselves. We just take it all on, and we're responsible for everything, good or bad, success or failure. And I'm suggesting you do for yourself the same thing that you would do with a new employee, which is have a job description that lays out your role as a manager as a series of tasks, accountabilities, responsibilities. And in doing that, you can depersonalize that work. You can not make it about the title. You can make it about the series of functions that need to be performed to make the business successful, to make it work the way it's supposed to work. And what you're doing when you do that is you're making delegation a lot more possible, because you're delineating all the different functions that must be performed for the business to run properly, and you're clarifying opportunities for staff development. So if everything is just like one big maw and feels overwhelming, if you can disaggregate that stuff into actual discrete tasks, accountabilities, and responsibilities, you then have an opportunity to train people to take bite-sized chunks off your plate. You can't do that if you don't have things delineated, as I said, as a series of functions, as a series of tasks, accountabilities, and responsibilities. And again, I'm making this distinction between accountabilities and responsibilities. And what I'm getting at, and I'm going to show you just a tool that you can experiment with and play with it any way you want in your own workforce, with your own company. But the idea that being accountable for something as a manager, yeah, you're the person who is ultimately responsible for the success or the failure. You're who signs off on projects or initiatives or decisions. But by just being able to delegate out some responsibility for those who actually do the work, do the due diligence, perhaps if it's a decision that needs to be made, or whatever it may be. You can apply this in a million different ways. That is a way to separate both accountability and responsibility. At the end of the day, you're the GM, you're the owner, you are what you are. You are accountable for success or failure. But when you can break out things into tasks, into actual functions, you can then delegate and train people in how to pick up some of those functions. And I want to say the more you can break them down, the more opportunity there is to delegate. So also within that, and I'm going to jump to the next page, and this is just a tool I'll share with you, and you can play with it however, in whatever way makes sense for you. But it's called a ratio chart, and ratio stands for responsible, accountable, I forgot the S, supports, consulted, informed, and omitted. And if you've got a function that happens on a regular basis, or a task that happens on a regular basis, or a decision that gets made on a regular basis, this is really useful to bring clarity to everybody's role in that task, that decision, that function. And it's not to say that the same person can't be accountable and responsible, because a lot of times that is going to be true. But the idea is here at the margins, bite-sized chunks, right? Can we start taking a few things off your plate, delegating them, providing training to people to pick them up, and in so doing, you're giving them professional development opportunities that oftentimes is rewarded with deeper engagement and loyalty to the company, because you're giving them some sort of path to the future within your company. It makes them feel valued. It takes something off your plate, makes them feel like there's a path to growth, to opportunity within the company. So And then going further down this chart, this idea of who is responsible for supporting something. Like, does there need to be like an outside consultant brought in? Maybe it's something about financial, and the support role is, the company's accountant or bookkeeper or CPA. Could be somebody within the company too. I like to really drive home the distinction between consulted and informed. This is another way to make staff feel engaged and like their voice matters, and speaking up and offering ideas has value because it's taken into account. Like, that's the consulted, right? But not everybody can be consulted on everything. So I just drive that distinction between like who needs to be consulted, whose voice needs to be at the table, whose opinions need to be taken account of, who's got expertise or just local knowledge on a particular issue that you want to get input from, versus who are you informing at the end of the day. And I also want to make the point around consultation or consulting with people. If you have a culture of that, that means, if for it to work, that means people have to feel like their voice matters. If you're constantly asking your employees what they think about something, or we need to make a decision about X, what do you think? But if they never feel like what they have to say is being heard or has any impact on what gets done, perhaps it's just consultation for show, then they're not going to bother. They're not going to give you their best ideas. They're not going to be engaged. So that is an important piece of this, is that to bring in people's opinions, to bring in people's expertise and ideas in that team building environment, you need to make them believe really that it matters, that you are taking account of that, and that there is a wisdom of the group, of the team that is going to rise up. So this is, it's actually a Google Doc that you can share, and you can use this. You're going to use this tool anytime, like you got a new project coming up. It's fundamentally a project management tool, but we've used it a lot in the context of like management, management development, staff development, and role clarity within companies. And it works really great in that regard. So I want to, let me stop screen share there. So just to stop there for a minute, tell me a bit about, Bob, Casey, Jen, tell me a bit about how you see this being able to work a bit for you, this idea, like how much can you sort of think about your own roles and be more precise about defining what it is you do, the functions, the tasks, the responsibilities, the decisions that need to be made. Do you see opportunities where you can engage others in this by breaking these things down into smaller and smaller parts? And let's talk for a second here. Bob, Casey, Jen.
Yeah, this is Bob.
Go ahead.
I think that is the way to do it. You got to break it down into smaller bites, or you just can't handle it. The problem that I run into is I break it into smaller bites, and the people at the low, the employees aren't following through and filling that obligation. So it goes right back to the bigger bite. And then you try somebody else, and then you go back to the bigger bite. It just gets frustrating to try to find the right person that's going to show up every day, and that, they're willing to take on responsibilities. I mean, we have a few and they're awesome.
Yeah.
But it's the other ones that we're struggling with, and everybody's struggling with them.
Yeah. Casey, anything to add from your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think this chart's helpful. I jot that down because I think that's an issue that we have, is not setting those clear guidelines of who's responsible for what. And maybe there's a lack of follow through with, okay, I do this part, then I get insight from you and support from you, and a conclusion this way. So I'm going to keep that chart in the back of my mind, because I think that could be really helpful in just creating those guidelines and keeping people on track, as Bob said.
Yeah, like I said, we'll share that template with you, and you can just save it and copy it and use it anytime you want. And the more you use it, like the better you get it. Like making a habit out of using it. Like, okay, here's a thing we got to do. Let's take 2 seconds and like be really clear about what everybody's role here is, right? Like, and this gets to just, I think, a larger point I want to make here. When you make decisions or you have things that you need done in the company, you are going to put time in either on the front end or the back end. So the sort of pushback I get from thinking about participatory management is that, my God, this takes too much time. I don't have time. I don't have time. It's a lot of work, right? And my argument to you is you are going to put the time in on the front end, or you're going to have to put it in on the back end. Because if the more you consult people, the more people understand the why of a decision, what went into it, if they were given an opportunity to provide some feedback or to offer some ideas. If all of that happens on the front end, when the decision gets made, you've got the buy-in and you can hit the ground running. If you just say, I don't have time for all that, I just need to make decisions, I just need to implement this thing or move in this new direction, all of a sudden you have to twist arms. You got to generate the buy-in. You got to answer the why. You got disgruntled employees like, why are we doing this? I don't want to do this. This doesn't make sense. So that is my argument to you. You will put time in on the front end or the back end. And I would suggest that putting the time in on the front end is a great culture builder. It's a great team builder. So it has the added benefit of, putting the time in, like, builds the culture, it builds the teamwork, it builds the sense of buy-in and engagement and loyalty from your employees that you're all looking for. That's just my pitch about, like, it all takes time, right? Like you're saying employees are difficult, and I hear you. So that's just the frame I wanted to put out there around it. Jen, what about for you? How do you see the possibility of this working for you?
I keep thinking of the word clarity. It's just ringing and ringing. The more I'm looking into this, is that everybody is clear about what their expectations are, and what the job is, all of that. And I know that sounds simple, but it's really not. Because we were a small business, and it was one of those things where everybody did everything, and we just can't do that anymore. And Bob, I hear you about some employees and some not. I'm really hands-on with a lot of my, I'm going to call them kids, because a lot of them are, my youngest will be like from 14 to, again, 65, and some of those guys are just giant children too. So there's a little bit more hands-on with us as managers, so we can kind of do that tap dance a tiny bit. But I really like the idea, and this is something we had started to work on now that I have a co-manager, that we can talk about this stuff, is really getting our training nailed down with the role expectations. And then, we have a couple superstars, just like you guys said at the marina, and how can I delegate some of that to those people? And yes, they want to feel more engaged, and yes, there's going to be financial incentives maybe that come with that. But at the same time, it's not just about money in this job. People do this because it's a fun job, so they really need to feel valued. So putting that on paper, I think, will help my boss a lot. He's kind of the ideas guy, and until he sees it in ink, he doesn't always get the general idea. But I love that we can start changing our behavior and thinking things through, instead of just, we have the joke that we've been running by the seat of our pants, but sooner or later we're going to run out of pants. So if we can get a custom tailored pair, I think that would be a good way to go. And it's funny, I'm curious to see if I write up my own job description, like what it will say, because like you said, everybody feels like they're on fire all the time. And I'm sure there's some of that I could pick off and give to some of the kids, and that would open up my bandwidth a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you said it sounds simple, the idea of role clarity, but lack of role clarity is a millstone around your business's neck. It will drag you down. It will drag down efficiency. It will create bad customer service. It will things not done. It's in so many different ways, lack of role clarity will just take your business down. So, this idea to starting at this point to just think about like, what is your job? How do you define it? How can you break it down into actual functions and tasks and responsibilities, as opposed to one giant heaping plate of like stuff, is like a first step, because what you then are able to see are opportunities to, again, bite-sized chunks, take off, provide some training and an opportunity for advancement to someone who can take that on. And when they're successful with it, they will feel like they're advancing, their engagement, their loyalty will improve, and there's a bit of a virtuous cycle there. So I think that's all great to hear. I'm curious, Daryl's Mountain Diner, have you figured out your audio yet?
I am on the phone line.
Oh, okay, you called in. Excellent.
Yeah.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Daryl Spencer. I'm known as Chef Daryl's Mountain Diner, Blue Mountain Lake, New York. I've been open since June 2021, 4 p.m.
Nice.
Number-wise, it's there. Everything I'm hearing from the Zoom meeting is what I need to straighten out my business. We talk about employees, we talk about staff and engaging them. How many my staff don't want to engage? They want to come in, grab their tip, and go home. I'm a one-man team at this point. And I've looked for that right-hand person, for that individual to help me get to that next level. And I am so unsuccessful. When I first started this business, I started with 16 or 17 people. Majority of them were full-time. Being new to the area, no one told me the history of some of the people I've hired. 95 people no one else would hire. I got past that. Last year I brought in a couple J1s. I have 2 people that's been with me from day one, but they don't want to invest in my business. They like coming in, making our tips, and going home. I'm at a point now where I need that structure. I need that help. I am a chef. I am a manager. I am a waiter. Right now, we've been plowing my own, seriously, damn snow. I'm going to do whatever it takes to succeed, but I know there's an easier way. Employees and staff aren't built like they used to be. I can remember being a kid and going to work, and all I wanted to do is be the best at what I was doing, be that number one, and keep climbing. The enthusiasm isn't here today. So I'm open for anything. Reaching out. It sounds like I'm in the right spot. All the conversation I'm hearing is blowing my mind, and it's refreshing and it's reviving.
Right.
That's what.
Yeah, you said Blue Mountain Lake. Is that it's Blue Mountain Lake, right?
Yes, Blue Mountain Lake, New York.
Okay. I think I stayed in a cabin there once. Is that where we were, Danny? It was Blue Mountain Lake? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we were right on the lake. It's pretty.
Cabin.
What's that, Darryl?
Was it the red cabins in the back of the diner?
No, not those ones, Daryl, but we went to the museum, and then we had stayed at some cabins over near Rocket Lake, for some presentations. So Rob got to see your beautiful little niche of the North Country down there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. That museum is amazing. So,
that it is.
nice area. Well, good. I'm glad this, like my goal here is to like just get you to motivate you, to get you thinking, to give you some frameworks and tools, and like, you know, it hopefully over time, you know, baby steps, put one foot in front of the other, will help you improve things and build the team you need. This certainly doesn't happen overnight. And, you know, I think it was Jen who made the point, like, you know, kind of these kids these days, but, you know, it's also like it's not necessarily a generational thing, right? Like, there are needy people who you employ. There are people with all sorts of bad habits and toxic communication styles. And like, we need staff, right, to run businesses. And we got to figure out how to like channel them, train them, right? Or ease them out. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the personnel. You know, you can't make a great employee. There are just some people who are not cut out for your business. There's also the fact that the faster you realize that and properly legally ease them out, the better off you're going to be, right? Like, so it's a horrible thing to see businesses just hold on to employees just because they feel like they need a warm body. The employee is actually causing them more trouble than they're contributing. But so we'll get into some of those types of challenges of like coaching and easing out, how to identify when you're going to be effective one way or another. I think we're going to cover next week. I think we're going to cover that. So, but thank you, Daryl. So that's everyone. And then, okay. So I'm going to go back to the slides for a second, and I want to walk through now that if you can just think about, like I said, think about your role. What is your role as a manager or a business owner? And how do you define it? And how do you get much clearer on what it is you're doing, and then allow yourself opportunities to start delegating small pieces and offering the training that they need to do it right. I want to just give you another here we are, framework for thinking about that. Oh wait, I'll go back one. So a lot of this gets to, I'm going to use the word culture. A lot of this gets to the culture of the business. And you can think, I'm trying to run a business. What's that got to do with culture? But every business has a culture, for good or ill. Every family has a culture. Every community has a culture. Every business has a culture. Every organization has a culture, for good or ill. And it's on you as management to try and develop a culture that bends the organization and the culture of the organization in a direction that you want it to go. And so how do we do that? How do we create effective participation in the workplace? That is part of the culture building of an organization. And if you don't do it deliberately, you know, if you don't make it happen, it will just happen to you. And usually when it does that, it's not a very good one. So I just want to give you this other idea around what I called kind of the 5 pillars of participation. This is a bit of the how. So the first step is motivation, that there is a motivation to participate. So what does that look like? Improved material reward. Like, employees feel like if they participate, if they're engaged, if they show up feeling engaged, that they will make more money or have opportunities for advancement, that there could be better work conditions or quality of work, and also that they feel like their opinions are heard and valued at work. Like, if they've got something to say, that their manager listens and takes account of it in a meaningful and respectful way. So that there's a variety of motivations, but they're like tangible, material, frankly, self-interested reasons for participating. The second pillar is this idea of participatory opportunities. So your employee is motivated because they think that there's better pay, they have a sense of respect or voice at work, They feel valued. Next is there needs to be a participatory opportunity. So what does that look like? Well, there's that there are actual processes and structures set up for active participation. Like they know how to plug in. Lots of people have lots of opinions. The effective thing is that they know where to take those opinions in what forum, right? Some people are not the best to hear the opinions. Some forums are not the best places to express them. So that there are processes and structures that solicit and engage participation. The decisions are influenced by these opportunities, right? Like they actually have a voice of work and they feel like it's listened to. So again, I keep stressing this idea. It's, there's the material reward, could be money, bonuses, opportunities for advancement. But sometimes people just want to feel listened to and respected. And I think going back at the very outset, Bob kind of highlighted, everybody needs affirmation. Well, yeah, everybody needs affirmation. And so that's where we're at. So we got to figure out how to do it in a constructive, efficient way. And I do like to say that, lots of people stick with bad jobs, lots of people leave bad bosses, right? So that we're kind of getting into this realm of like, how do you just create a culture and structures of respectful engagement that make people feel valued and that their voice and their work is appreciated. The third pillar, this idea of organizational environment. So your employees are motivated. They understand the ways to participate because they're clear and standing. Next is organizational environment. So, are the mechanisms for participation clear, understood, and trusted? You can say to your employees, we want to hear from you, and here's how you do that. But if they feel like they're going to be retaliated against because somebody didn't like what they had to say when they were asked their opinion, they're not going to offer their opinion, right? So, the mechanisms for participation organizationally are clear, understood, and trusted. So you've created structures. Does everybody know about them? So again, this idea of like creating opportunity and then coaching people to take advantage of the opportunity in an appropriate way. That can be true of work skills. It can be true here too, is what we're getting at. Yeah, so broadly known, used, how to use them, and that they trust that they'll be listened to and that will matter and that they won't be retaliated against if people don't like what they say. Next is active management. Do they have the information they need in order to be able to participate successfully? So they're motivated. You've created the structures and the opportunities for them. You're trying to build a culture where they're aware of how to participate. They trust that they can participate. There's respect there. How is the management then like promoting that? So do the workers have the information they need in order to be able? So there's some ideas around information sharing there. If you want to engage employees on like, should we do this new line of business? Should we do this new thing? If there's a decision to be made, you need to share information with them for them to be able to actually engage meaningfully. So, and I'll get to the information sharing around financial in a minute when we talk about that. And then lastly, this idea of participatory capacity. You've done all these things, but nobody is doing it. Nobody's engaging. Well, we also have to provide some skills, some coaching, some training about how to participate. So if you want engagement from your workers, you need to give them some skill building. You need to coach them into, like if you want participation in, maybe they need to understand a bit about your business planning, your business or business planning, right? Like whatever it is, they could need information. So you would need to do that. So let me just go back again. This idea to have a culture of participation requires these elements: motivation, opportunity. You're creating an environment for it. Management is actively encouraging and providing the information they need. to participate. And lastly, that you're providing some training and coaching so that they actually know how to do what you're asking them to do. And I want to stress, like, these sound like big concepts, but I want to just keep stressing, like, find something little, find something simple and little, and just try it out. This idea of praxis, like the space between theory and practice, right? Like, prepare to do something, try it, think about how it went, let that inform the next thing you try, or maybe you try the same thing again and do it better. But I just want to encourage you to, these are big ideas or frameworks to think about, but the more granular you apply them, the smaller you try to apply them, the more you're going to have an opportunity to be successful. And then just keep remembering, you got to try things, you got to practice. Like I say to my son, 10 minutes a day on that guitar, right? And he's getting amazingly good. But if he doesn't do that, he won't. Same for all of us. And so let me stop there before we get into open book management. So did a new person? No, that was just the phone. Okay, so just thinking in terms of that, this idea around the, how do we provide motivation? How do we create good structures? How do we make it part of the organizational environment? How do we as managers encourage the participation through our words, actions, management style? And then what do we do to try and coach and skill people up to actually engage? Does that feel overwhelming? Does that feel doable? Anyone? Bob, Casey, Jen, Daryl?
For me, it does feel a little overwhelming, only based on my past experience.
Yeah.
I'm usually pretty good with people. We have a great vibe here. The energy's good. But I can't get people to, I use the term invest in the business. I can't get them to go to that next step, And a lot of times I blame it on the demographics where I am. No one's concerned, no one wants to work, but you also threw in that term culture. And coming from a man of my culture, that was new for me. And now, but I understand it.
Wait, coming from a what? Can you say that sentence again?
Well, based on my ethnic, I always talk culture, black culture, white culture.
Oh, okay.
But you put culture in the workplace. Am I right?
Yeah. No, I didn't put it there. It is there. And I'm saying, for good or ill, whether you try or not, there is going to be a culture. The more you try and shape it proactively, the better it can be. The more you try and pretend it doesn't exist, oftentimes the more toxic it is.
I think for myself, I didn't realize there was a culture in the business or in the kitchen or in my environment. So that's new for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, there. Good. How about Bob or Casey? Can you think of, again, I keep stressing, like, what are some small ways you can just like take a stab at this, that you could use this kind of framework to think about something that you can do better within your family of businesses?
Yeah, Casey here. And I'm sure Jen can probably attest to this. Since we're seasonal, it's kind of like May 1st, the gates open and it's just a flood of rushing around and being busy for 6 months. And I think with that being said, we kind of bring a bunch of new people on, you do this, and it's just a mad rush to get things done. So there is a lack of roles like team leaders or management. It's just kind of, we got to get all this done, let's get it done. So I think that would definitely help us. A matter of how to organize that and implement it.
Yeah, it gets back to the role clarity thing, right? Like, you're trying to open everything up fast, efficiently. Everybody's gonna be everywhere, all hands on deck, but you're actually, are you all tripping over each other is the question, right?
Right.
Bob, anything you want to add to that?
No, I have to agree with her on that. That's where we're having our trouble right now.
Yeah. So maybe the way to think about this is just like one or two key employees, and how do you do something like this with those one or two key employees? Just like, one extra like committed set of hands that like is feeling like they're growing and there's opportunity, and right, like maybe this isn't something that's like organization wide right off the bat. It's just more something that like, let me try this out with one person to start. So
Yeah, we're also taking, part of the class with Stacy through the NIPA program also. And she gave us a one-on-one and told us that we need to get together with our people and talk to them. So I called everybody in, tried to lay out the ground rules, gave, specific guys, their duties and who could be job leaders on the different jobs. It was awesome. Everybody was into it. It lasted about 2 weeks. They're back to their old ways. So it's frustrating. How do you keep it going? How do you keep it moving? And
yeah,
that's why I want to continue to keep myself, engaged, so that I make sure that I'm making the right decisions for them.
yeah. I mean, I think that's part of this idea around the culture, right? So you can have a meeting, you can be rah-rah, and you can like motivate good behavior for, as you just said, 2 weeks, and then it falls apart. But because there isn't a culture to back it up, right? Like culture is extremely sticky. It's really hard to shift and bend. So, the sooner you get going, the better off you'll be down the road. This is not overnight change. You don't change culture overnight. But I think that's an example of where like you can make something good happen because you pay attention to it intensely, or offer examples or offer rewards that last for a week or 2 weeks or a month, and then you're right back to where you were before, because there has to be backed up with some efforts to kind of shift culture. And like I said, culture's sticky. You don't change it overnight. It's really difficult to bend, but that is part of the work, right? I want to acknowledge. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
I do believe I'm my worst enemy too. I mean, I'll admit to that.
Yeah. Jen, how about you? What are your thoughts? What's rolling through your head right now about how you might apply this, an example of how you might apply it, with whom?
I'm really liking the term praxis, because that's sort of where we are, right? It's the joy of we call it the off season, where we're just coming up with a whole bunch of policy and ideas, and it's that sort of sticky space. It's like, all right, so how do we do this? The example of your son with the guitar. So I used to work on the racetrack, and we would start babies, and it's not like you just throw a saddle on and hop on, right? So we can't expect our employees to do the same thing. So I started really, really small with, this is how you should interact with the customer. And it seems kind of reductive and almost oversimplified, but there you go. So many of our job holders are first timers, and I'm really trying to focus on retention so that I don't have to rebuild the arc every season. So this is all really helpful. And culture, we've got kind of, we've got two cultures going on, right? We have the culture of I'm going to say like the people that are in the trenches, right? Not that our customers are at war with us, but that are doing the jobs, that are riding the bikes, all of that. And then we have another, like the owners are kind of in their own situation where they're not in the day-to-day, so they don't always understand what we're doing, and we don't always understand what they're doing. So it's that clarity thing again. But just having words to put onto these ideas are very helpful. I enjoy our culture. It is very much familial. We spend time together, a lot of us, like the core and some of my staff that have worked for us for years. If I don't hear from them, like every other week, we will reach out to each other just to make sure everybody's okay. So I think our culture is positive. I'm just trying to keep that maintaining. You know, you get the swan thing where you're elegant on the top, but you're paddling like crazy underneath. I'd like to be less crazy.
Yeah, you brought up a super critical point about retention. Every business owner, every manager knows like the value of retention. Like it's the value in efficiency, the value in money. Even in like low skill retail, like low skill, high turnover retail, like a grocery, all in cost of a new employee before they've even started working is about $5,000. Like the job posting, the time invested interviewing, vetting, like, so like keeping employees, and that's like the, you know, at the easy end of it, quote unquote easy end of it. Like it gets into the, you know, the tens of thousands of dollars if you move up the skill ladder even just a bit, to try and bring in to lose a good employee and trying to find a new employee and bring them in. So it's really a matter of dollars and cents and efficiency. And so, and I would argue, you know, I keep going back to this idea of like, you know, people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses, right? They leave like bad workplaces. People will do really tough work because they feel respected, they enjoy the people they work with, they're decently compensated. You know, people will put up with a lot if they are, you know, if they feel good about what they're doing. And value what they're doing and feel valued themselves. So that goes so much to the idea of retention as well. I just want to acknowledge Lillian Rockwell, joined recently. Do you want to introduce yourself or talk a bit about your business or why you're here?
Hi, I came in late because I was at the dentist, but from what I'm hearing is how to really think about how to delegate tasks and where efficiency could be best valued, versus like having 10 people greet people at the door versus having like, you know, one person over here, somebody at the desk, and then, you know, all in a line. I think that's really important to about when hiring, because I don't know, I've had to move people around into different stations because they didn't fit in a particular place. I'm working from home now, but once I do get more employees, then I'll be able to run them a little bit more easier.
Great, thanks for joining. So it's this is a great conversation that we're having. That's what I was hoping to have. I like I said at the outset, I'm sure you're all here because you think you get something to learn from me, but I think you can learn just as much from each other too. So if nothing more than the sense of camaraderie that comes from, oh, you deal with that too? That makes my life feel a little less painful, right? So let's go back to the, I want to walk, we're going to totally shift gears here and talk a little bit about money, finance. And I want to introduce something else to you. We've got 10 minutes, so I'm going to breeze through this, and then we're going to spend a little more time on this. I'm not sure if we're going to do it next week or the week after. We're still kind of mapping out. I wanted to get through today and hear what people are interested in before we fleshed out exactly how we're going to approach next week and the week after, in what order. But so this is the idea of open book management. The formal fancy definition here, open book management is a culture. There's that word culture again, is a culture where the entire company participates in the management of the business through understanding how their individual and collective efforts affects financial performance. So what does that mean in practice? I think I heard somebody earlier say, they just want to show up, sort of kind of do what they were told and then collect their paycheck. But can we get them engaged by teaching them about how the business makes money, where all that money goes, and and make them believe that, like, if you have ideas for making more money, if you have ideas for efficiencies, if you have ideas for new products or new services that we could be offering, we want to hear that. We want to explore that with you. That's the idea of, like, helping workers understand how their individual and collective efforts affect financial performance. And then going back to remember the pillars of participation, that there is a motivation there, right, for caring, that there is this sort of fits within all 5 pillars, right? So there we go. So when I talk about this right at the outset, a lot of business owners have a little it's a little anxiety inducing for a lot of business owners, because they feel like this is my business. I don't want to talk about the finances. I'm not talking about well, just to be clear, what we are talking about, it's this idea of, like, how does the business make money and where does all that money go? Everybody wants to make more money. Everybody wants, like, the best health insurance possible. Everybody wants all the benefits because they think that you own a business, so you must be getting rich on it. You look at Walmart. Walmart has a 3.1% net profit margin. Now, they sell a lot of stuff, so that 3.1 cents that they put in their pocket on every dollar sold amounts to an enormous amount of money. But still, at the end of the day, for every dollar that Walmart sells, they're only putting a little over 3 cents in their pocket. But you know what public perception is, including your workers? It's more like 36%. So when what seems to you like unreasonable demands around perhaps wages or benefits or time off, it's because their perception is you can afford it. So my argument around open book management is you can actually help workers see just how hard it is for the business to make money. If you teach workers how hard it is for a business to make money, they can, and then engage them in a conversation about, like, here's what we would need to do to meet this wage demand or to meet this benefit request. Let's think about how to do it, or meet somewhere in the middle. Again, it's that sharing of information, right? Sharing of information in and of itself can engage people because you've helped them understand. So Walmart 3.1, medium business is only 6.5%, and yet this is a Gallup survey, I think, or Yahoo Finance survey. So people just have a completely wild, unrealistic, pie in the sky notion of, like, how much people make from, like, running a business. So with that, and you know what, I'm going to save this for next time, because, to give you a sense of what I'm getting at, I want to just show you a quick video. And since we're getting towards the end, I want to do that instead. One second, it is. So this is just an example from one company, and it is a service industry company. So, you know, I didn't plan that, but you might recognize employees like this. So, but this is an example of, like, what it means to teach employees how the business makes money, where it all goes, and to engage them in efforts to make more money. Everybody hear that?
My name is Matt Jackson. I've been working with Kirby Lane for 12 years. I'm an associate team leader at Kirby Lane Northwest. I got involved with the great game of business when I came here to Northwest in December, and I was given the small wares line, bread and dairy. When I started owning, for example, the small wares line, that's been my big thing. I took pars of all the dishes in the restaurant. I found out, I realized that, you know, when you're doing a smallware order, usually it's just a guessing game. Oh, I need plates. Oh, I need silverware. Oh, I need this. Oh, I need that. And we're like, but you don't do that with any other order. You count what you have, you set pars, and you go from there. So we set pars for all the dishes, all the silverware, everything we needed, and I just started counting everything every week and maintaining orders every week. The biggest thing that I found that we were losing was 150 spoons a week. It's a lot of spoons. In the grand scheme of things, spoons are only $4.99 a dozen. Company-wide, it's $20,000. So just in spoons, it's crazy. It's much bigger than just financial things. by creating systems, you help everything out. They call me the Spoon Man. My nickname is the Spoon Man. Our motto around here for about a month was no spoon left behind. Probably my biggest recommendation I have for anyone starting to own a line is get people involved, get people excited, and don't just regurgitate information. Coach them, let them know like exactly what's going on. And if they're like, well, why do I have to worry about spoons? Just, hey, kind of show you my numbers real quick, and I'll let you know why I'm focused on it, and hopefully you can focus on it with me.
There, that's just a quick introduction to open book management. I want to play that video of just a workaday guy in a restaurant who, because information was shared, some skill building and coaching happened. How many of you would like employees like that, right? Like that engaged. How can we all make more money together? So just curious, anyone can jump in. How do you see opportunities to be able to engage employees like that?
I think that's great because we've the way our booking software goes and the staff knows how much everything costs, how much the customers are paying. So they'll see that number and they're like, oh my God, we're making everybody gazillionaires. It's like, but we have insurance and we have all this other stuff. It's not like we're just raking in that dough. I don't even know what our percentage would be, but I think that's a really great place to start, like spoons versus track rental. But the idea of having a little bit of that disclosure, I don't know if I can get my boss to give that kind of disclosure, but I think that would be an interesting conversation for he and I to have about maybe we clue people in how much it really does cost to just keep the lights on.
Yeah. We got just a minute here. Bob or Casey, do you want to jump in for a second? What are your thoughts about like opportunities to engage employees to understand a bit more about how the business makes money and be more engaged in like how that works?
I don't think we could do that company-wide. I think that in our case, it may be something that we could do with our managers. But most of our employees work week to week, and they wouldn't get it at all. They know they need to get out of, go down and run around for a few hours and be out of money by Saturday morning. So I don't think that they would understand the whole concept of what everybody would be making and why people would be making more than the other person. Because, the comment that we get, Casey and I get all the time, well, you two just sit in the office and don't do anything all day, and they're doing all the work. So I think I'd have a hard time, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, great. Start with your management team. Like that's the baby step, right? Like just start with them. Can you do this with them? And I also want to be clear, we are not talking about open book management or financial transparency about like wages and like stuff like that, right? We're talking about like, how does the company make money and what does it cost to do what the company does to make that money?